Yo, what's up, my truth seekers? It's your boy, back again to dive deep into the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories. Now, I know what you're thinking. Conspiracy theories? That's just a bunch of crazy talk for tinfoil hat wearers. But hold up, my friends, because sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. Remember that time everyone thought the government was spying on us through our phones? Turns out they kinda were, with Prism and all that jazz. Or how about those Area 51 rumors? Well, we might not have found any aliens yet, but the government did admit it was a real place. And who knows what they're cooking up in there. The point is, sometimes those wild stories we dismiss as crazy turn out to have a grain of truth, or even a whole truckload of it. And today, we're gonna explore some of the most mind-blowing US conspiracy theories that actually turned out to be true. Buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to take a wild ride through some seriously shady government secrets, shocking cover-ups, and historical events that will make you question everything you thought you knew. And we're talking Nazi scientists on American soil, secret drug experiments, and political scandals that would make your head spin. So grab your popcorn, hit that subscribe button, and get ready to have your mind blown. Trust me, you do not want to miss this. All right, let's kick things off with a real head scratcher. Did you know that after World War II, the US government secretly brought over a bunch of Nazi scientists and engineers to work for them? Yeah, you heard that right, Nazis in America. This whole thing was called Operation Paperclip, and it was basically a top secret program to recruit these guys and, get this, give them cushy jobs and new identities. We're talking rocket scientists, chemical weapons experts, you name it. Over 1,600 of them ended up on American soil, working on all sorts of projects for the government and even private companies. Now, you might be thinking, why on earth would they do that? Well, the Cold War was heating up, and the US was desperate to get their hands on any technology or knowledge that could give them an edge over the Soviets. But here's the catch. Many of these scientists were involved in some seriously messed up stuff during the war. We're talking war crimes, human experimentation, the whole nine yards. So not only was the US harboring these guys, but they were also actively covering up their pasts. It wasn't until years later that the truth about Operation Paperclip started to come out, and let me tell you, people were not happy. This whole thing raised some serious questions about America's moral compass and whether winning the Cold War was worth compromising its values. Definitely something to think about, right? But hold on tight, because we're just getting started. We've got a whole lot more crazy conspiracy theories to uncover, and trust me, they only get wilder from here. Okay, so we've got Nazis in America, but it gets even crazier. Ever wonder if the government has ever experimented on its own citizens? Well, get ready to have your mind blown, because they totally did. We're talking about MKUltra, the CIA's top secret mind control program. Yeah, you heard that right, mind control. These guys were obsessed with the idea of manipulating human behavior, and they were willing to do whatever it took to crack the code. Their weapon of choice? LSD. Now, LSD was a pretty new drug back then, and the CIA thought it might be the key to unlocking the secrets of the human mind. So they started dosing people with it, sometimes without their knowledge or consent. We're talking soldiers, civilians, even mental patients. They wanted to see how LSD affected people's behavior, if they could use it to control their thoughts and actions, or even extract information from them. But things got dark real quick. Some people had severe reactions to the drug, experiencing long-term psychological trauma, and even committing suicide. The whole thing was a massive ethical nightmare, and it went on for years. It wasn't until the 1970s that MKUltra was finally exposed, thanks to some brave whistleblowers and investigative journalists. The public was outraged, and rightfully so. This whole thing showed just how far the government was willing to go in the name of national security, and it raised serious questions about transparency and accountability. But we're not done yet, folks. We're just scratching the surface of the crazy stuff the US government has been involved in. Stay tuned, because the truth is out there and we're gonna find it. From mind control, we now turn to a dark chapter in American history, the Vietnam War. Now, war is always hell, but some acts are so horrific they defy comprehension. One such event was the My Lai Massacre. On March 16th, 1968, a company of US soldiers entered the village of My Lai in South Vietnam. Instead of finding enemy combatants, they encountered unarmed civilians, elderly men, women, and children. What followed was a horrific massacre. Soldiers systematically systematically murdered hundreds of innocent villagers, committing unspeakable atrocities. The military understandably tried to bury this horrific event. They attempted to cover up the massacre, hoping to keep it out of the public eye. But the truth has a way of surfacing, doesn't it? A few brave soldiers, disgusted by what they witnessed, spoke out. Their testimonies, along with investigative journalism, brought the My Lai massacre to light. The public was horrified. Protests erupted across the country, and the world condemned the actions of the US military. Eventually, some of those involved were court-martialed and convicted, a small measure of justice for the victims and their families. The My Lai massacre remains a stain on America's conscience, a reminder of the dark side of war and the importance of accountability. But the story also highlights the courage of those who speak truth to power, even when it's dangerous to do so. And that's something worth remembering. But we're not done yet. There's still more to uncover, more secrets to expose, so stick with me because the truth can be a slippery thing, but we're on its trail. We've seen the government cover up war crimes, but what about spying on its own citizens, especially those fighting for basic human rights? Sounds crazy, right? Well, buckle up because this next story is a real doozy. Ever heard of COINTELPRO? It stands for Counterintelligence Program, and it was the FBI's secret weapon to disrupt and discredit domestic political organizations. And guess who was at the top of their list? Civil rights leaders. We're talking about icons like Martin Luther King Jr., folks. The FBI, under J. Edgar Hoover, saw these activists as a threat, and they were determined to silence them. They used all sorts of dirty tricks, illegal wiretapping, spreading false rumors, even trying to blackmail King into committing suicide. It's messed up. This wasn't just about surveillance, it was about suppressing dissent. The FBI wanted to control the narrative, to stifle any voices that challenged the status quo, and they were willing to break the law to do it. COINTELPRO was eventually exposed in the 1970s, and it caused a huge scandal. People were outraged that the government was spying on its own citizens, especially those fighting for justice and equality. This whole thing raised serious questions about government overreach and the abuse of power. But the fight for truth and justice never ends, does it? So let's keep digging because there are more skeletons in the closet and we're going to bring them to light. We've seen the government spy on activists, but what about controlling the media? Ever get that feeling that the news is, well, a little biased? That maybe there's a hidden agenda behind the stories we see and hear? Turns out those suspicions might not be so far-fetched. Enter Operation Mockingbird, the CIA's secret program to manipulate the media. That's right, the CIA was planting stories, paying off journalists, and even setting up fake news outlets to spread This wasn't just some small-scale operation either. We're talking about major news organizations, both in the US and abroad, allegedly involved in this scheme. The CIA wanted to control the flow of information, to shape public opinion in their favor, and they were willing to use the media to do it. Now, this whole thing was super secretive and the details are still murky, but the implications are clear. If the government can manipulate the media, how can we trust what we see and hear? How can we know what's real and what's not? Operation Mockingbird is a stark reminder that we need to be critical thinkers. We can't just blindly accept what we're told. We need to question everything, seek out diverse sources of information, and form our own opinions. The truth is out there, but it's up to us to find it, and that means being vigilant, being skeptical, and always asking questions. But don't worry, we're in this together. Let's keep digging because there's still more to uncover. Okay, so we've seen the CIA mess with the media, but what about presidents getting their hands dirty? Ever heard of Watergate? It's not just a hotel, my friends. It's the name of a scandal that rocked American politics to its core. Picture this. June 17th, 1972. A group of burglars are caught breaking into the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate complex. Seems like a simple burglary, right? Wrong. This was just the tip of the iceberg. Turns out these guys were connected to President Richard Nixon's re-election campaign, and it wasn't just a break-in, it was part of a whole campaign of political espionage and sabotage against Nixon's opponents. Dirty tricks, illegal wiretapping, you name it, they were doing it. Nixon and his cronies tried to cover it all up, of course, but they underestimated the power of the press. Two intrepid reporters from the Washington Post, Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, followed the trail of clues, with a little help from a mysterious source known as Deep Throat. The truth slowly unraveled, and it was a bombshell. Nixon was implicated in the cover-up, and the whole thing blew up in his face. Faced with impeachment, he resigned in disgrace in 1974. Watergate was a watershed moment in American history. It showed that even the most powerful person in the country is not above the law. It also highlighted the crucial role of a free press in holding those in power accountable. But the fight for transparency and accountability never ends. So let's keep pushing forward, because there's still more to discover, more truth to uncover. Stay tuned, because the best is yet to come. We've seen presidents lie and cover up, but what about secret arms deals and covert operations? Ever wonder what really goes on behind closed doors in Washington? Well, get ready for another wild ride, because this next story is a real doozy. It's the 1980s. The Cold War is still raging, and the Reagan administration is facing a crisis. American hostages are being held in Lebanon. Enter the Iran-Contra affair, a tangled web of secret deals and covert operations that would make your head spin. Here's the gist. The US government secretly sold arms to Iran, a country it was officially opposed to, in exchange for the release of those hostages. But it gets even shadier. The profits from those arms sales were then funneled to the Contras, a rebel group fighting the socialist government in Nicaragua. Now, this was a big no-no. Congress had specifically banned funding the Contras, but the Reagan administration found a way around it, using secret channels and off-the-books accounts. It was a blatant disregard for the law and democratic processes. When the whole thing came to light, it was a massive scandal. People were outraged that the government was secretly dealing arms and funding a war it wasn't supposed to be involved in. It eroded public trust and sparked a fierce debate about government accountability and transparency. The Iran-Contra affair is a classic example of how far the government is willing to go to achieve its goals, even if it means breaking the law and deceiving the public. It's a story of secrecy, deception, and the abuse of power. And it's a reminder that we need to be vigilant, to question authority, and to demand transparency from our leaders. But we're not done yet. There's one more story to tell, one that's perhaps the most disturbing of all. So stay with me, because the truth is out there, and we're gonna find it. We've seen the government lie, spy, and break the law, but what about medical experimentation on its own citizens? And not just any citizens, but a vulnerable, marginalized community. This next story is a dark stain on American history, a chilling example of medical racism and exploitation. It's called the Tuskegee Syphilis Study, and it's one of the most infamous medical research projects ever conducted. Starting in 1932, the U.S. Public Health Service, in collaboration with the Tuskegee Institute, began studying the effects of untreated syphilis on black men. Now, here's where it gets truly horrifying. These men, mostly poor and uneducated sharecroppers from Macon County, Alabama, were never told they had syphilis. Instead, they were told they were being treated for bad blood, a vague term used to describe various ailments. They were lured with free medical exams, meals, and burial insurance. But there was no real treatment. Even after penicillin became the standard cure for syphilis in the 1940s, these men were denied access to it. The researchers wanted to observe the natural progression of the disease, even as it ravaged their bodies and minds, leading to blindness, paralysis, heart disease, and death. This unethical study continued for 40 years, ending only in 1972, when a whistleblower finally exposed it to the press. The public was outraged, and rightfully so. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study became a symbol of medical racism, exploitation, and the deep mistrust between the black community and medical institutions. It wasn't until 1997 that President Bill Clinton formally apologized for the study, and the government offered financial compensation to the survivors and their families. A small measure of justice, decades overdue. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study is a chilling reminder of the dark side of medical research and the importance of informed consent and ethical treatment. It's a story we must never forget, so we can learn from the past and ensure it never happens again. But our journey through the dark side of American history isn't over yet. Stick with me, because there's still more to uncover, more truth to bring to light. Whoa, we've been through a lot today, haven't we? From Nazi scientists to mind control experiments, government cover-ups to medical exploitation. We've uncovered some seriously dark secrets about the US government. It's enough to make you wonder, what else is out there? What else are they hiding? But here's the thing, we can't let these stories discourage us. Instead, they should empower us. They remind us that we can't just blindly trust those in power. We need to question everything, seek out alternative sources of information, and think critically for ourselves. So what can you do? Stay curious, my friends. Don't be afraid to dig deeper, to ask questions, and to challenge the official narrative. Read between the lines, connect the dots, and never stop searching for the truth. And remember, you're not alone in this. There are millions of us out there seeking answers, demanding transparency, and holding those in power accountable. Together, we can make a difference. This is just the beginning, folks. There are countless other stories to uncover, countless other secrets to expose, so stay tuned because I'll be back with more mind-blowing videos exploring the hidden truths of our world. In the meantime, stay vigilant, stay curious, and most importantly, stay true to yourselves. Peace out.